All right, here we go. Yo, Shortbox Nation. Welcome back to the podcast. It was your boy Botter, and guys, I won't lie to you. All right, this episode is a labor of love off the rip. All right, the amount of times I've screamed bloody murder at my computer and my entire setup has been ridiculous. All right, technical issues galore, but we're making this episode happen because I can only imagine how many of you would be screaming bloody murder if I skipped another week. So, got a new podcast for you guys. Welcome back to the podcast. Obviously, thanks for joining me. If you're new to the show, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Shortbox Podcast. My name is Botter, and you are now tuned into the best comic talk show that brings you the best conversations about comics and pop culture inspired by comics. This is episode 417. You didn't hear an audio intro or anything fancy this episode because there is no interview this episode. I wanted something a little more laid back, a little more relaxed. So I invited some familiar faces, some friends of the show that many of you, if you've been, listening for any amount of time, you guys might recognize them on the podcast. I got the Comic Gents with me, all right? I got Chris Hackett from the Oblivion Bar pod. I don't got my sound pad machine, so Chris, you're getting a manual clap.
Yo! What's up? Glad to be back in the short box.
Hell yeah. And we got Greg Licktieg from the First Issue Club.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. I like the in-person applause. It feels more personal.
Greg, can you do me a favor really quick, too? Since we're here on the short box, can you tell everyone what your catchphrase is on the First Issue Club when you guys start the show, each episode?
Oh, just like Sue Storm, we love a good read.
That's right.
That is a fantastic intro. Greg, I've told you this already, but I'm gonna say this for the world to hear. Yeah, I have been binge listening to all episodes of First Issue Club that have come out this year, and I've had a damn blast with it. And that intro, no matter how many times I've heard that pun and that joke, it still hits. It's so good.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a Mike D original, and we're gonna talk about it later in this episode, Botter. But January has been very good for comic book fans, so it's been fun few weeks in January, a lot of good first issues, so I'm excited, and that's why those episodes have been so much fun, because a lot of ups and downs we've already experienced in the comic book world.
Factoids. And this is what I love about recording with other comic podcasts, or just other podcasters in general. We do not waste time getting into it. It's like, yeah, Botter, so today we'll be discussing, it's like, guys, this is my show. But I love it. But listeners, look, I'm not going to have a long-winded intro. I already have. Most of you are listening to the free version of this show, so you already heard a minute and a half ad for Collective Con. So I'm going to keep this short and sweet. We're here today to talk about, we're just catching up on comic book news. We're talking about what's come out, what we've been reading. Really just a chance for the Comic Gents to link up, all right? I also am kind of treating this like our, and I guess maybe this is a little a preview, putting this out into the world. I'm kind of treating this like a trial run for a potential and maybe future little panel idea that I tossed out there. If C2E2 needs some proof that we'd make a good panelist, like I said in this episode.
Exist. See, Exhibit A.
This episode. Yeah.
This is our audition.
Yeah,
this is the audition tape. So depending on how this goes, we'll see. But anyways, gents, I guess let me just ask the most basic ass question out there. How have you guys been? We're recording this on February 1st. A month we've gotten through a month of January. We're a month into the new year. How has 2024 treated you so far? Chris, how about you take that first?
Yeah, I mean, over at the Oblivion Bar, we always take every January off. So this has been kind of a somewhat relaxing time, but Botter and Greg, you guys both know me. People, listeners of the Oblivion Bar know this. I often don't just sit still and do nothing. So therefore, there was no time for, I wasn't just sitting on my hands and watching a movie during the month of January. I was recording interviews for when we come back, and I was preparing, for the show as we come back in February. So that said, the grind isn't as hard right now, but going into this next month, once we are fully recording each week, putting out movie reviews, putting out comic, creator interviews, all the things, it'll just be, that podcast grind. We love it. So January's been good. 2024 has been, like Greg had said a moment ago, been a great, just a great first month so far.
Yeah, that's well said. I think that maybe that's I should have added that too, that this episode is really just to celebrate how good of a year so far comics has been to its fans. Chris, are you able to share, I guess, can you preview like any of the people you've interviewed or what people can expect?
Absolutely, yeah.
From the episodes that'll be dropping soon?
Yeah, so we have an interview coming up. The most recent one that's coming up is the interview with Noah Gardner, Ryan Pera, and John J. Pearson. They are the complete creative team behind The Infernals that is coming out on February 14th through Image Comics. This is, I think I say it during the interview, but it's kind of like Little Nicky meets Succession. It's basically the Antichrist is dying and he has 3 kids. Who's going to take over hell once he dies? It's essentially that, and it's great. So it's very cool to have those 3 on. I also recently spoke to Tyler Crook, who a lot of folks might know as the artist from Harrow County. He also recently just wrote and drew and colored and lettered a awesome series through Dark Horse called The Lonesome Hunters. He just wrapped up the 2nd arc. Big fan of Tyler Crook. He is a artist with a capital A. So if you love Harrow County, highly recommend you check out Lonesome Hunters, and also, shameless plug, go check out that conversation. We also have Tom King and Bookwell Evely coming up here soon, as well as Ram V. We also have Patton Oswalt and Jordan Blum. We just secured Patrick Horvath from Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, which we'll talk about later in this episode.
Hell yeah.
A lot of cool things coming down the pipeline for the Oblivion Bar.
Good stuff. I mean, and none of that is... I mean, I knew a little bit about some of these guests, but it does not surprise me that you've got nothing but A-listers out there. Good stuff. Greg, what about you, man? How's First Issue Club treating you? How you guys doing over there?
Good. And, I'll always say it. Chris's and the Oblivion Bar's off month is more star-studded than our regular month. I mean, you just hear the names he threw out. You're just like, damn, you're talking to fucking giants in the industry. So
sometimes I want to be like, all right, Chris, we get it. You work hard. All right.
I just want to see the text chains that he has going on his phone.
For real.
But no, I'm always excited to see who both you guys get on to interview on your shows. We typically don't do interviews. We are busy in the trenches getting it into those first issues. A lot of first issues have been coming out this year already. The Energon verse is alive and well, and it refuses to not be bad. it's always good, and that's frustrating for my wallet and for my free time. So that's exciting to see. We've been good. We finished off 2023 with our best of episode, which was really fun. And we thought we'd start 2024, nice and relaxed and, slowly saunter into the new year. And 2024 had different ideas, and they said, no, we're going to drop all the heat in the coldest months. And so we've just been, hunkering down and covering all that stuff. But, we're getting ready for C2E2. We're getting ready for Planet Comic Con, which is our local convention here in Kansas City.
Planet looks awesome, by the way. Have you guys seen all of the people that they've announced for Planet Comic Con this year? It's wild.
No,
yeah, it's huge. I think they're doing like a Scream, the film franchise, a Scream reunion with everyone. They're doing a Happy Days reunion, which I can finally get my Potsy #1 signed. And then, there's already incredible, great creators coming. We're kind of spoiled because we have Scotty Young, Jason Aaron, and Kyle Hahn, and Jeremy Hahn living here in Kansas City.
Going to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's wild.
Whoa. Simon Beasley, Paul Bettany.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. It's our 25th anniversary, so they're going a little hard in the paint.
Yep.
But I'm crossing my fingers for some big comic book creators to be named later, but we'll see.
Keith David is going to be there. That's enough for me. You know what I'm saying?
Potter's coming to Planet Comic Con.
Dude, this is a stacked lineup.
Well,
man.
and Greg, we've talked about this before. Planet Comic Con doesn't get enough love. It is a great con. It's a great. I would say it's like a great middle con. You can go there. You can have a good time. You're not packed to the brim. It's just, and you often will get those, like you said, Scotty Youngs. You'll get your, you said Colin Bunn as well goes a lot. I actually met Tom King for the first time at Planet Comic Con. So you guys get some really good talent there.
Charlie Hunnam is going to be there. I'm sorry. This podcast has now become the Botter reads the Planet Comic Con guest list.
All right, Botter, you can stay in my guest room.
That's
flat fee.
So, all right. So it sounds like, Greg, you've already got your 2 comic conventions kind of like in mind, C2E2 and then Planet Comic Con. I know I'm doing Collective Con in March, and I'm I'm hoping this year will be my first year at C2E2, and if we could do this panel that I submitted, that's going to be so dope. So to any Shortbox listeners that are planning to attend C2E2, who knows? There might be a panel that you can. There might be an opportunity to watch this episode happen again live. Yeah. Chris, what do you got lined up for convention schedules?
C2E2 is definitely on the board. That's something I want to do. I love C2E2. I've gone, I think, 3 times to C2E2, and I haven't gone in the last couple of years. San Diego's definitely happening, and then New York Comic Con is definitely happening. Those are my 3 this year. I have the very fortunate circumstance of working for a company that goes to a lot of these conventions. So unlike most folks, trust me, it's not beyond me to know how lucky I am to do what I do with Comic Sketch Art is the company. But it affords me the opportunity to rub elbows with a lot of these awesome creators and go to these conventions. And it's pretty awesome. I can't deny. I get paid nothing, but it's cool to just be there. So I'll take it.
You get paid in clout, and that is
exactly
priceless.
Worth its weight in gold in today's age.
That's right.
Get that precious SEO.
Very rare times that you can sit there and just have a conversation with Tom King after hours at the convention hall. Yep. Like, it's wild. I know I've mentioned Tom King a couple times, but there are more creaters that I like besides Tom King.
Close personal friend Tom King.
Thomas King. I have him on my cell phone.
You mean TK? We go by TK. I call him TK.
Well, Tommy boy, you know Tommy, right?
my friend Chainsaw.
That's funny. All right, I feel like we're making good traction on this episode so far. So we've talked about how our podcasts are doing. We've talked about the conventions we got lined up.
Should we talk about our football teams really quick while we're all here?
I wasn't going to bring that up. I know it's a
I'll take the pain. I'll take
topic.
it in. I'll bring it up. Okay. First of all, I should just say off the top, Greg, congratulations on your team winning.
Yeah.
Everyone at home, I'm a diehard Baltimore Ravens fan. I have the tattoo on my back to prove it. I've loved the Ravens for most of my life. Should we talk about Duval County at all? I mean, I know they weren't there, but
not at all.
Okay, all right.
Not at all. The Jags don't. The Jags deserve no short box time at all. Right?
I don't know. They were cooking this year, though.
They were cooking for
a couple more years, and they're going to be on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been saying that for the last. We've been saying that for years.
This year was through the 90s. I know your pain.
Yeah.
But what I will say is, you guys, I was expecting a little bit more trash talking in our thread, last Sunday, but it was probably one of the most polite back and forths I've ever witnessed between two diehards of their respective teams. It was almost like you guys were like Greg, you'd be like, those Ravens, man, they're really doing it. I think they got it. And then Chris would be like, I don't know, buddy. The Chiefs are looking really good. Oh, my God. Congratulations on that touchdown. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
I equate it to like an 18th century duel where we take off our white gloves. We each select a pistol.
Oh,
and,
no, good sir. It's you. You first.
No, you
first. Shoot first. No, I shall shoot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that game was very stressful for both Chris and I because, we're both longtime fans of this football team. And we're both longtime fans of each other.
Yep.
And so we want to be careful what we say. And also, we want to be careful not to say too much, because if our team starts, shitting the bed, we don't want to have to backtrack too hard.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and also, I think for a long time, I put a lot of emotional investment in my football team. Like, if you had talked to Chris in 2008, I was the biggest Willis McGahee, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed fan on the Ravens. And as I've gotten older, I still love the Ravens, of course. But I've realized that to put that amount of emotional investment in a sports team that you have nothing to do with can be considered silly by some. That said, and I you guys know this because you were in the thread, I was in the pace mode. Like, my BPM was at a high level, like a high resting level during that game, to the point where I was like, I'm invested inherently. I didn't realize that I was there, but here I am, and I hate it. Yeah. I have a headache, my ears are hot, and my team is losing, and neither team is playing well, and that's what sucks.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I'm trying to remember.
Was kind of.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember who was our last team. Oh, we played. The last team was the Titans. They beat us to knock us out of the championship. I'm sorry, the playoff. Well, not the playoff, but the
Walker.
What am I thinking?
Conference championship.
Titans. Thank you so much for the conference championship.
Yep.
Me and Blythe ended up watching that game stupidly on vacation in paradise. I mean, we were in like a beautiful resort overseeing the beach. We were on like the most pristine possible vacation possible. That was a lot of possible. And we decided to watch this game and it completely ruined the mood. You know
Just
what I'm
ruin
saying?
your day.
And here's the thing. The Wi-Fi was kind of trash, so we tried to like watch it via streaming, and then it just wasn't working. And that should have been our sign. Hey, go enjoy the beach. Go into town. Go do something on your last day of vacation. But instead, we were so like, we needed to watch this game. We ended up like just listening to it via radio stream. It's like a radio stream.
Oh God!
And I have never felt more like an old man than listening to this game on the radio.
Yeah.
And I admit, I'm still like learning a bunch of like, football and the jargon, the lingo. So listening to it was a different experience. So I'm having to watch Blythe's reaction to some parts because I'm like, is that guy on our team? You know what I'm saying? So I'm watching her just
Wait,
like,
who's
fuming.
really? What team is he on?
Yeah. What position was the quarterback again?
Yeah.
Dude, it was the biggest bummer. I will never forget Blythe's remarks as soon as like the final score was announced, and we were like, all right, well, our season is over. She looks at me, she goes, let's go drown ourselves in the ocean now.
That's kind of romantic, though.
Well,
it was nice.
I told you guys after the game, I was like, I have to take a depression nap after this. I am fully I am exhausted from watching this game. And I will say, for everyone listening right now, and I know this is kind of a hot topic in America, and it was before this weekend, I am not sick of Tay-Tay. I'm team Taylor Swift through and through, even through this week. I will say who I am sick of, and that's Trav. He was talking shit the entire game, and yet he got no flags. My only qualm with that entire game was how much of an asshole Travis Kelce was, and yet he was the only one that just did not get penalized whatsoever and was out there making circus catches back and forth.
I swear to God, if I see Travis Kelce's face on another fucking commercial, I'm going to lose it.
For
I love it.
For
I
a
want
COVID
more
shot.
of it, to be honest.
Bro, COVID, Experian. Next thing I know, he's going to be on a commercial for like Boom Studios.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, what the fuck?
Everyone at home,
Dude,
we are all
actually might be
boosted.
nice.
We've all got our COVID shots. Don't worry. We're not. Don't hear
wait.
what we're not saying.
When we win the Super Bowl, his face is gonna be fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yep.
I'll send you guys T-shirts.
I got. You definitely have to send one to Chris. That'd be funny. Greg, I got one more question. I got one more question on the topic of football, and then we'll get into the comics. What is Kansas like around? I mean, because this is what y'all third or fourth time into the Super Bowl, right?
It's our fourth Super Bowl visit in 5 years.
In 5 years, which is absolutely insane. Is it still as hype? Like I imagine, like just the atmosphere, the energy is hype, right?
Hell yes. And you ask any New England fan, is it still magical when you go to the Super Bowl 9 times?
enough.
Fuck yes. Like it's
Every
it's
time,
a
yes.
fun time. It's like,
Damn.
do you get excited when you find a Candy Mountain? Yeah. I don't care if I find Candy Mountain 200 times in a row. Like it's still fun to go to the big game.
Yep.
Like
Where's the spot to be at? I mean, to be at
my
when it comes to
house.
watching the game. No, that's a good answer. That is a good old man
The
answer.
Licktieg
Right there.
household.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
can
there's no bad spot.
I gotcha. I can only imagine like all of your bars and restaurants on that day are probably fucking popping.
Yeah.
People don't
And
realize
we have,
how hard
this-
it is to get to the Super Bowl. Like how
Mm-hmm.
the NFL is chock full of some of the smartest people in all of sports, and the line between terrible and great is this big. Like you could be the best team one year and the worst team the next by a coaching change or a player signing somewhere else. It's literally that close. So for any team to make it to the Super Bowl multiple years, that is the making of a dynasty. And as someone who, as the fan of a team that just lost, especially to the team that's now going to the Super Bowl, I still find it very fun to watch a team and a player like, say, Patrick Mahomes, or a team like the Kansas City Chiefs to succeed the way they are, because we are literally witnessing history. That there are not many teams like this.
Yeah.
And
we're
I
watching
know
something
people say
unprecedented.
we're in our villain era, and that's fine. But like, so are the Patriots. And when you start the season, isn't the goal to get to the Super Bowl?
Yeah. Yep.
Like, what do you expect? We try to play hard every game. We got there. I'm sorry, everybody.
Either
but
die
I love
a
comic
hero,
books.
either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself as a villain.
Yep.
And that's
And
fine.
for the 5 of you that are still listening, because you guys, you know what I'm saying? The 5 of you that are still listening, now we're going to talk about some comic books. All right, congratulations. That was just a test. Got to see, we got to weed out the strong.
See who the real ones
All right.
are.
How about we? I definitely want to hear what everyone's been reading. I guess I'll leave it up to you guys. How do you guys want to go? You guys want to talk comic books we've been reading, or to touch on briefly like some of the comic book news that have happened in the past month?
I say notes. I want to go over some notes here first, and then kind of get into our reads there at the end.
Okay, yeah, I like that. And then I've also got some FOC new comic picks from Ben to play at the end of this. So we've got some new comic. We'll just save all the comic talk later. Not that we're not about to get into it, but let's talk about specifically comic book news, headlines, announcements, things that have happened in the past month, which has been plentiful. There's a lot to pick from. We don't got all the time in the world today, considering I took up almost 2 hours just fiddling around with tech issues. So I guess how about we each pick one particular announcement, article, something to highlight, and we'll go from there. And since I was the late one to this, I will let Greg. How about you kick us off, man? What has been the one article, announcement, news that has like piqued your interest or made you happy to be a comic fan?
Yeah, well, the one thing I did find interesting was actually supposedly leaked by Chip Zdarsky in his newsletter that Katie Kubert is the new editor for Batman over at DC.
Oh wow.
Katie Kubert has had a long history in comic books. She did a bunch of stuff over at Marvel with like A-Force and a bunch of other new Avenger stuff, and it was phenomenal. And now she has moved over to DC to be the top editor for their DC stuff. Or not DC stuff, but their Batman stuff. And, of course, Katie Kubert is the granddaughter of... oh, my God. I forgot his first name.
There's
Andy
so
or
many.
Adam?
There's
Either
Andy,
or.
Adam,
Joe.
there's Emma. Which one?
Oh,
She's
Okay,
the granddaughter of Joe.
Okay, Joe.
And the niece of Adam and Andy.
Okay.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay,
We'll
so
fix
there
that in
isn't
post.
so there isn't a direct. I thought she was maybe like the daughter of one of the Andys or one of the Kubert sons. Okay,
Yeah.
so granddaughter to Joe, niece to one of them.
Who was the editor before her on Batman?
Before her?
Yeah.
His name was Bruce Wayne something or other.
Bruce Wayne? Really? just Batman.
He's editing his own stories.
How much time does Bruce?
That sounds like a
need
Chip
to edit?
Zdarsky.
Yeah.
That sounds like a Chip Zdarsky book right there.
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne editing a Batman comic.
Yeah.
As meta as you can get.
How much prep time does he need?
I think it was Ben Abernathy was maybe the
Okay.
editor beforehand.
Sure. Yeah.
And then rumors is that he's just going over to Robert Kirkman's Skybound.
Okay.
Which
You know what?
That's fine.
First of all, props to you, Greg, because that is some real comic fan thing to like highlight. Where it's like there's a new editor being announced.
Yeah.
I give a lot of props to people that know the editors off the top of their head. I know right now, if you were to ask me any of the editors' names, I'd be a little hard pressed. But
I know Tom Brevoort and Heather Amos. That's it. Those are the only two I can know off the top of my head.
And then I guess I got to also learn the name of the editor at Dynamite, which I will not regret to say right now because I don't actually know at the top of my head. But Declan Shelby
You're like,
spoke very highly
I knew
of
that
him.
name at one point for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So, Greg, kudos to you for fucking highlighting editor news, man. Like, what? Actually, let me ask you: is that something that you keep in mind or even reference at all when it comes to picking up a new series or a new number one? Like, do you? Because obviously, I think it's a classic case for most people of like, oh, who's the writer, who's the artist, and then maybe you might be like, oh, I really like Brad Anderson color. I'll check it out. But do you ever? Yeah.
No, I mean, that's a great question. I always look at writer and artist first, but if a story really gets cooking or like loses a thread, I kind of go back and was just like, okay, who's in charge of it? Who's like the ringleader of making sure everything's supposed to make sense? If like all these books and tie-ins are supposed to be are vibing and they're not, and then I kind of like see, I follow the breadcrumbs of, who's the parent in charge of all these.
Who's chaperoning this party?
Writing. Exactly. And so, I mean, to some point, because, Katie has had such a phenomenal track record at DC and Marvel, because she's also been doing, like, Batgirl stuff for a while, and so that's been phenomenal. I don't know if anyone's been reading the Batgirl or Batgirl stuff, but it is so good. So to see that she's also, like, lending her talents to, the flagship of Batman, like, it's exciting because you're just like, okay, so they have some huge stuff planned, because you don't bring in that heavy hitter talent if you don't have, some big ideas you need helped ironing out or formulating.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. You know what? Going forward, I think I'm going to challenge myself to try to memorize and start looking at the editors like that. never thought about considering the editor when a book starts sucking. You're right. I'm about to go and start blaming the wrong person.
Because then it's just okay, who hired this idiot to write this book? Oh, it was fucking Katie. Damn it.
God damn it, Katie.
They're there to facilitate the series, right? They're the ones, in one way, especially at the big two, especially with the flagship book like Batman, they are really honestly steering the ship. It's not really so much the writer. It's the editor going, you can play in this sandbox for right now. Okay, stay there. And then if you want, maybe I'll let you play over here when that event over there is finished or when that person is revived in something. Like that. That's truly what the editor does in these big books.
All right. Yeah, I guess this might be a free podcast episode topic idea for any of you two or anyone listening, but I think it'd be a really cool episode idea to highlight all of the biggest like wins and losses in comics that have been directly attributed to an editor. Because I'm thinking of One More Day comes to mind. I always feel like anytime there's like a storyline or a moment in comics or a decision, a character death, or a revival that polarizes fans, it's usually the editor that gets a lot of that flack. The writer will be like, well, the editor team and, the team at Marvel wanted me to do this and that. And for some reason, One More Day keeps popping in my head.
Yeah.
So that'd be
when a creative team blames something that they couldn't do on a series on the publisher, they're kind of retroactively blaming it on their editor. That's really honest. Without saying their name, they're like, well, the publisher had, Marvel had this going on and I couldn't do this. That's the editor's decision.
Yeah.
And if it's really bad, they blame the editor-in-chief.
Exactly.
You know what? Yeah, to make that episode idea even better, talking about or highlighting like some of the biggest editor-in-chief names throughout comics would be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But Greg, you actually set up a topic that I wanted to bring up to this group because it was new to me as I'm looking for like articles and headlines to spotlight. One in particular that like was new to me and caught my eye and kind of like had me scratching my head was this headline from, what was it? I think Hollywood Reporter that read, Robert Kirkman settles Invincible profits suit over series ownership. And the long story short of it is that the original, I guess, colorist for Invincible, or at least a colorist that had been doing the first 50 issues, William Crabtree, claims that I guess Robert Kirkman talked him into signing a deal where it looked like Robert Kirkman was the sole owner of Invincible. So that way he could pitch it to, I guess, Amazon Prime and get, film and TV rights and all of that. And I guess it was actually a deal that kind of screwed Crabtree out of any royalties or a large percentage of royalties when it comes to the show. And they just settled it out of court, but it was supposed to go right into it was supposed to like go into court, and actually play out, but they resolved it for whatever way. And as I'm reading this article, you end up also learning that Crabtree has the same lawyer as Tony Moore. And Tony Moore had a similar issue with Walking Dead. I'm just going to read a little part I have here. Crabtree's suit nodded to a complaint brought against Kirkman in 2012 by Michael Tony Moore, who claimed he was entitled to as much as half of the proceeds from the Walking Dead comic book franchise. The comic creator was accused of tricking Moore, whose lawyer was also McRae, into giving up his interest in the comic and demanded a rescission of the copyright assignment. So this is like the second time Robert Kirkman has talked one of his creators into signing a contract that wasn't that just was not a good move on their part, which kind of like gave up their rights to revenue and royalties and stuff like that, which completely caught me off guard. Like, were you guys aware of this?
No, not at all. And this is the yucky part of comics, especially creator-owned comics.
For sure.
Like, we always think about Invincible being this long-running, incredible creator. Like Robert Kirkman in general, just creating some of the greatest creator-owned comics of all time. And yet, especially when you start talking about adaptations and licensings and all of those things, this is where it gets kind of gross and messy. And on one hand, I feel really bad for Crabtree. And I think there was a similar, I don't think it ever got in the muck, but Cory Walker, who was the artist on the first 4 issues of Invincible, if I'm not mistaken, 4 or 6 issues.
Like 4 or 6, something like that.
He had a similar issue when Invincible got picked up for adaptation and kind of thinking about how do you split that up between him, who did 6 issues, and Ryan Ottley, who did 120 issues. Like, who is truly like the creator on this series? So this isn't, I hate to say that it's not surprising that something like this would happen. I'm just surprised that it got out into the public and that it's actually like public knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I think as comic fans, we're used to hearing, gripes with the artist and maybe the company, or the writer and the company. Maybe at times also the writer and artist bumping heads. But for the colorists to kind of get screwed out, I thought would put this in a particular light that I haven't seen too much of. I mean, yeah, we're all used to hearing the stories of creatives getting screwed out of money and royalty and what they're owed. But this comes as such a shocker for me that it's Robert Kirkman, someone that champions, and I guess maybe I'm building him up too much in my head, like someone that signifies and portrays like ownership, like he kind of lives and breathes like the Image ethos, right? Like that's why he was promoted to such a high status and image and all of that. So it just really caught me by surprise that Robert Kirkman, it'd be one thing if this was like the one time and it was like some shady shit, maybe like he wasn't completely honest with the contract, but a second time. And also, like with another huge, like his two biggest properties. I don't know. It's just weird. And I wanted to, and I just realized like I don't want to just spitball like what the suit is about, because I don't think all the details are out. But I do want to just read this one part I highlighted from the article that explains a little bit more about what's going on between Crabtree and Kirkman. It says the legal battle revolved around claims that Kirkman duped Crabtree into surrendering his ownership stake under the guise of making the title easier to sell to studios. The 2005 agreement stated that Kirkman was the sole author of Invincible and owner of all rights of every kind and nature, while characterizing Crabtree's contributions as work for hire, meaning that Kirkman was assigned any rights a colorist would have had to the series. So it sounds like, I guess for layman's term, Kirkman, and the word duped is like, oh, Kirkman, you duped somebody?
Yeah.
Well, let's look at that for a second. This is from 2005.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Invincible was not a TV show yet. It was not anything yet, but a very fun comic book that I love.
Same.
And duped, I believe, is Crabtree's words, not a legal term in the case.
That's fair.
Yes.
That's fair.
And so, I mean, what's happening with Tony Moore and Crabtree right now is money. They want some of that money of the TV show and the comic sales, and they should. I mean, they're creators on the book. But let's not pretend that like in 2005 they probably needed a paycheck, and Kirkman was just like, listen, how about we just do this? That way you can get some money now, and then like I'll be the sole owner or whatever. It wasn't exactly the
ethical,
moral thing to do. Yeah, you know. But at the end of the day, I mean, Kirkman's maybe the smartest businessman in comics right now.
Yeah.
I mean, he's building an empire, and when you are doing that, sometimes you have to step on people to get to where you want to go.
But damn, the fucking like your immediate team. You know what I'm
Get
saying?
Get yourself
it's
a lawyer on that one. Don't. Why would you sign anything? It doesn't matter who you're.
Yeah,
exactly.
Listen, I love
I
both
do
you guys,
agree.
but if we started like a podcast network, we're getting fucking lawyers involved because you don't know what people are going to be like in 10 years. And Greg, to your point, I think it's a very good point. It smells like Alan Moore all over again. Like you think back to the 80s when DC Comics was like, listen, if we don't publish Watchmen for 9 months, you get the rights back and you can do whatever you want with it. And guess what they've done every single year since 1987? They've made a brand new edition of Watchmen, 10th anniversary edition. They've made the hardcover. They've made a black and white version. They've done every single version of Watchmen because of that.
Absolute Watchmen, just like whatever they can do to retain that.
And it sounds like to me, and again, this is all point of perspective. We don't really truly know who's at fault or any of that stuff. Honestly, we may never know. But it sounds like to me what Kirkman did was he said, I want to own this. Here is how you can make money right now. And it's, Crabtree maybe just didn't look at it close enough, and now he's kind of left out in the cold.
Yeah, I won't lie. Like some of these phrases they're using from this contract, I feel like as someone that works in, I don't know. I mean, this is a lot of assumption in hearsay, but it's a fucking podcast. This is what you do, right? Like I feel like if you see an agreement that has the words sole author, owner of all rights of every kind of nature, like you would almost like question it, like
without perpetuity.
What does this exactly mean? You know what I'm saying? It's like I've heard these words before. I think this is kind of deja vu right now.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think we do kind of have our answer here with they settled out of court.
Yeah.
If Robert Kirkman knew that he was going to win, he would say, okay, I'll see you February 20th in court, and we'll figure this out. But the fact that, like, Image and Robert Kirkman and Skybound were just like, let's just fucking do this behind closed doors, please, tells me that, like, maybe they didn't think they had a leg to stand on, per se.
Yeah. Snuck them some of that Energon money.
Or it could have been amicable, where it's like, look, you know what? We can cut you a fat check right now. You know what? We know we did wrong. Here's a fat check right now. But Greg, that probably, who knows if that was the case or not. But Greg, to your point, you're right. The fact that it was settled out of court, definitely, make of it what you will. But I think I'm in the same camp as you on that mindset.
Yeah.
But
that's for juicy drama.
Yeah.
I love it.
We love the tea here.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it just threw me off when I seen that headline. I was like, wait, not Mike Kirkman.
Yeah.
Not Robert Kirkman. So
Bob.
Oh, Bobby,
yeah,
no.
Hopefully it was
Bobby,
an amicable, resolution, and all of this, hopefully it was just an amicable resolution. I'll leave it at that. Chris, what about you, man? What was the headline or news piece that got your attention this month or this past month?
There's not really a ton to dive into quite yet. It was just announced a couple days ago, but ladies and gentlemen, we have our Kara Zor-El in the DCU. It is officially called DCU per James Gunn. Millie Alcock from House of the Dragon has been confirmed as Supergirl in the Supergirl movie that'll be coming out, I think, in 2025. This, of course, is being adapted from I'm going to say his name again. Hey, everyone at home, get your bingo cards out. I've said Tom King 5 times on the show. Tom King.
Or get your drink ready. Yeah, take a drink every
Social.
time Chris says Tom King.
Tom King and Baquel Evely's modern masterpiece, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. Everyone right now, if you have heard nothing that we've said in the last 40 minutes, hear this. Go read Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. It is literally a masterpiece. It is so good. And, kind of along those same lines, I don't know how... I'll say this. I'm slightly apprehensive about the word adaptation with that book, because so much of that book is its imagery and its inner monologue, which is notoriously hard to adapt in film. That said, James Gunn involved, Millie now joining this because, as some people may know, I'm a giant, House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones fan. She's great in the 4 episodes that she's in. She plays a young Rhaenyra in that series. I'm just really excited about this. I think so far what I've seen from James Gunn and Peter Safran and their casting of this universe has been pretty spot on, in my opinion.
Yep.
Yeah, I was pretty excited by that piece of news. For a minute, I was like, wait, who? And then I was like, she's got I think she could get the look down. She's got the acting chops, obviously. And, like, she's a young star, too, right? Like, not relatively... it sounds weird saying not, like, well-known, because it's, like, House of Dragons, right? Like, how many millions of people tuned in? But, like, she's an up-and-coming star. And I think it's nice to have, like, some new blood to, like, try to follow and inject into, like, a whole new universe.
That's what he's kind of doing, too, with this universe. Both him and Peter Safran, is that of the castings that they have announced, none of these people are mega stars. Like, they are all middling to rising stars. And I think that's kind of where Marvel is starting to falter a little bit. When they announce a new character in their MCU, it's always a big name. They're trying to, like, win off of star power. And that's just not the way, because you got to pick the right person for the right role. I mean, think about who Chris Evans was when he was cast as Captain America.
I was just about to say that.
I mean, Robert Downey Jr. was on the decline. He had done Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and then Iron Man. Or I think maybe Zodiac was in there somewhere as well.
Yeah.
But, like,
Chris Hemsworth was a nobody.
He did Cabin in the Woods. Scarlett Johansson had done, like, what was the movie with Bill Murray? Why am I spacing it right now?
Garfield.
Yeah, Garfield. There it was. Yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. None of these.
Oh, Lost in Translation.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Circle gets the square.
That's right. These actors were not stars until they became superheroes. It seems like what James Gunn and Peter Safran are doing with the DCU is a kind of a similar format.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, why not? Like, it worked, right? Like, I think it could work a second time.
Absolutely.
All right. That was good. All right. Do you guys mind? Actually, I'm going to bring up one more that I wanted to just get. I want to hear, like, your initial reaction. What was your opinion? But the new, I think it's safe to say, one of the bigger piece of news in the, like, just straight comic book reader world. I'm not talking movies or television and adaptations, but comic book world was, in my opinion, when IDW revealed not only is Jason Aaron going to be writing TMNT after issue 150 ends, and they're going to restart the series, but they also announced like an all-star cast of artists that are doing the first issues, and we're talking Raphael Albuquerque, Joel Jones, Cliff Chiang, Chris Burnham will be doing the first 4 issues of this new series that Jason Aaron's writing. And then Raphael Albuquerque, I think, is supposed to be like the regular series artist. And that is blowing my mind that I'm about to have TMNT on my pull list. And I'm going to be picking it up every month. Like, what was y'all reaction to the news?
Well, as the reigning Jason Aaron fan club president.
I'm vice president.
Yeah, but I was pumped.
Yeah.
And this is to say, I am currently reading the TMNT stuff from IDW and loving it. And the fact that I'm getting even more to eat later this year from my good friend Jason Aaron, I'm over the moon.
Yeah,
like they're so smart, and like that this current series they have going on with Sophie Campbell, it got so many new readers and old readers in the TMNT, and now when you bring in Jason Aaron, who is like maybe the most well-known Marvel writer in the last 15 years, and they're just like saying, oh, by the way, he's going to write in Ninja Turtles. Like, people's brains just exited their ears. Like, it was like explosive.
Yeah.
And you know, he's a writer that he's got experience writing team books, right? Like, he wrote Avengers for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's not even talking about how great his Thor run is. His Thor, Avengers. What else am I missing?
He did X-Men for a while. It wasn't necessarily an X-Men book, but it was Wolverine and the X-Men.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, he's done so.
Which might have been my introduction. That and the Southern Bastard. Don't even get me started on
Southern
Bastards. It
Bastards
breaks
is
my
so
heart
good.
thinking about Southern
Yeah,
Bastards.
and the fact that we're never
No,
going to
no.
get any type of
not
resolution
at
with
all.
Southern Bastards.
I put that to bed. I put that thought to bed. But Jason Aaron is someone that like has experience writing team books, and what's a better team than the fucking TMNT, right? Like the 4 brothers. Come on, man. And this artist lineup is insane.
I want you guys.
Like, I wonder.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off there, Bada, but I just want you guys to think back to, let's say when you were 5 or 6 years old. I don't know when you guys got into comics. Mine was somewhere around in that range. Initially, was like hardcore into Batman the Animated Series, Spider-Man the Animated Series, Fox Kids, all that stuff. If you could go back in time and go, your 2 of your favorite creators in your life will be writing and the other one is writing and drawing both the TMNT and Transformers, and you're going to be 32 and you're going to have both on your pull list. You would have watched that little kid blow his mind and then probably blow his nose because he's 5. But like, you would have seen him blow, his mind would have been blown right there.
Gen X is eating good. 80s babies are eating super good. Like that was one point that I brought up to Declan Shelby was he's writing Thundercats, and the hype has been insane, right? Like, the pre-orders are going crazy, all thanks to our Lord and Savior, Rob Lee.
Oh, Lord.
It is insane. That dude is insane, but that's for another time. But, Thundercats, huge. Transformers, giant. Now we've got, like, TMNT's got, like, a second wind. And I feel like it's almost like the Thundercats news and this TMNT news is similar in the sense that fans that have been like hyper fans that have been following the comic series for years are like, yeah, but the comics have always been good. But we're like, shut up, nerd. Like, our boys in it. You know what I'm saying? Now it's important.
That's the wild thing, is that these publishers are finally going, hey, you know what would be cool is if we put actual like big talent on our big IP books. Is that weird? Is that a weird like thing? Should we do that? Like, and now they're doing it, and wow, who would have thought that it's all selling like hotcakes?
But I bring that up to say that I feel like this. Like, I guess just sticking to the topic at hand, this news almost feels like does it feel like it overshadows how good that run has been? And I'm saying this from someone that necessarily hasn't read that run, but like Drew and his brother Zach and a handful of people really love what IDW has been doing with TMNT for years. Like, for years I've heard how good it is. But, this piece of news is enough for me to be like, all right, sign me up, goddammit. All 10 years of how good these stories are, it means nothing to me right now. I just find it like, but Greg, good on you for going back and like, trying to play catch up and appreciating what they've established so far. Like, how is the series? You said the series is good so far, what you've been reading, right?
Yeah. So Sophie Campbell, who's been doing the series from 1 to 150, has
Real quick, let me interject. That's what I mean to say. How does Sophie Campbell feel? And she's like, guys, I've been here for years, you assholes.
I would imagine she's a little miffed, but Chris and I actually had a sidebar about this earlier, and it's just like, we're going to revisit this series that Sophie Campbell did in like less than 5 years and say, this was legendary. Like 150 issues on one series, like that. Most creators don't get past 20 issues. And she's down here slinging ink for 150 issues. And the fact that, like, the only, like, acclaim is from, like, diehard fans, and she's still given sweet and turtle stories after 100 issues is something to be applauded and, like, recognized. And I wherever she goes next, or wherever they go next, I'm following, because, like, they've proven that they can maintain a story for 150 issues. I mean, Kelly Thompson was on Captain Marvel for 50 issues, and that took 4 years. And that's the longest series that Captain Marvel's ever had. 50 issues. Like, that's another feat.
Remember that legendary Jason Aaron Thor run you were talking about earlier? He was on that book for 7 years and didn't even get to 60 issues.
It is a spectacle. And all applaud goes to Campbell and the team over there at IDW. I salute you. You did a great job. Just because I'm excited that Jason Aaron is hopping on does not diminish what you did. But I'm excited to see my hometown boy, my flavor, get on to TMNT.
That's right.
There we go. Drew was really into, he's always been into TMNT, but like a couple years ago, he really got into the comic books, and he read from issue 1 up to the current one. And some of the story arcs and character developments and, you know, the things that have transpired in that series, like, just his description blew me away. I'm like, what do you mean they did that to Donatello? You know, like, wait, what? Why would they do that? It sounds like she's just had, like, creative liberty to, like, take the turtles in, like, places that, you know, that have never been, you know, like, they probably wouldn't let them slide. That probably wouldn't slide on, like, Nickelodeon or an animated show or something. It sounds like she's had a lot of creative freedom to do some cool stuff in the comics. And Greg, I think you're on to something where, and I think in retrospect, it'll be a series that in retrospect, we're like, wow, this has always been fucking fire.
Yeah, and this is like what she was able to do on that book for as long as she had. That's what comics used to be, everybody. Back in the day when no one was paying attention, Chris Claremont could just write X-Men for 30 years, no big deal. Like, why can't
no one said shit?
Can't we just do that again? Like, let them do whatever. Like, let these creators run free. Like, we shouldn't kick a artist off a book after 16 issues or what have you because it's not the top selling book and it's not beating Spider-Man and Batman. Like, we should let them play in their own. You know, we can't get attached to these series unless we actually have time to get invested in them.
Agreed. That is one thing about, like, current comics that is a little annoying is that a lot of them feel like they're written for, you know, 6-issue arcs, trades, and there's, you know, a reset, or there might be like a disconnect between, like, you know, certain arcs. But yeah, kudos to the IDW team. I want to transition and ask you guys, you know, because they showed preview images. Like I said, these different artists are going to be writing different one shots before Raphael Albuquerque takes over art duties for the main series. And I just want to recap and say and announce. So it's Joelle Jones writing the Raphael one shot that comes out July. You've got Raphael. Wait, did I fuck that up? Okay, let me do that again. You got Joelle Jones writing Raphael one shot in July. Then you've got Raphael. Am I saying this right? Why do I keep saying Raphael? Oh, because I'm saying Raphael twice. It's Raphael. Yeah, never mind. All right, and then you got Raphael Albuquerque writing Michelangelo, drawing the Michelangelo one shot in August. Then you've got Cliff Chang doing the art for the Leonardo one shot in September, and Donatello drawn by Chris Burnham in October, and then the regular series starts. Of those 4, if you only had to buy one, which one would you go for?
Oh, it's Raph for me. Easy. I mean, I was going to ask you guys before we got done with this topic, who's your favorite turtle? For me, it's Raph because he's a maniac, but also Joelle Jones, who is my favorite artist of that group.
It's a badass.
So it's an easy decision for me. You had me at Jason Aaron, and then you had said Joelle Jones and Raph. Okay, I'm in. Like, let's do this.
Yeah. I think I'm at a time. So my favorite turtle is Leonardo. You know, I've always
Boy
loved
Scout.
like the leader, the pragmatic, suck up. So Leonardo is my default, and Cliff Chang is, this preview image already looks pretty slick, but Chris Burnham in this Donatello preview image they got, he's an artist that really gets into the weeds of like the minutia of art. Like he just adds so much lines and texture and detail to his work. I'm like kind of curious to see like what his particular comic looks like. And Donatello, from what I understand, is like gets a lot of love in this series. Like he's not just like your nerdy computer whiz guy. Like I think he's like been through some shit throughout the IDW series. So I'm kind of curious to like check that out. Greg, what about you, man? Of those four, who piques your interest the most?
If you can't tell me what turtle I am, we ain't friends. And it's straight up Michelangelo.
Mikey.
He's the party dude.
He's a dude, man.
He's the party dude. Yeah, I mean, choosing your turtle or identifying with whatever turtles, like figuring out your like 7 love languages, like
what Hogwarts house are you in?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like
it's true.
It's tarot and it's like astrology for like hyper nerds.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Damn
you
right.
may be like a Scorpio or like Mercury in retrograde, but like what fucking turtle are you? That's how I know if we're gonna date
I'm
or
a
not.
Leonardo
The
Rising.
real question.
I'm a Mikey
why
in a
you're
Donatello house,
Yeah.
so it's like kind of complicated sometimes.
Chris, look, I know that we've been trying to crack the secret to going viral online, but I think you might have figured it out. If you can develop some sort of like TMNT astrology sign. What's your sign? Graphic, man.
What's your shell?
Ooh.
Stop giving them all of our good info and good ideas.
We're workshopping here,
Copyright.
Stop the recording, Botter.
Yeah.
All right, so safe to say we're all excited about the new TMNT series that'll be coming out. From my understanding, it says here, IDW is kicking things off with a 10-page prelude story in the TMNT Alpha #1. Of course, every good relaunch has got to have Alpha #1. So Alpha #1 one-shot on sale in June, and then the ongoing series with Jason Aaron and all these artists starts in July. So right around
That's
the
some
corner,
Marvel
just
shit,
in time
by the
for
way. That's like Jason's like,
That is
hey,
some
coming
Marvel
from Marvel,
shit.
we got to do a one shot. It's got to be Alpha. Can we put a decimal in there? Maybe is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. All right, how about we get to talking about some of the comic books and standout reads that we've gotten to enjoy this year so far. And I don't know why I thought about framing it in this way, but you guys tell me if this is a stupid idea. And actually, I know why, because I've got wedding planning on my mind, and I thought to ask, hey, what are you guys reading in this format? Something old, something new, and something borrowed.
And something blue.
Yeah, and something blue. But you guys just tell me it as you guys feel.
Just tell me. Just tell me. I don't
out
care.
the window. All right, how about Chris? How about you kick us off with this segment, man? What have you been reading and what have you been enjoying this year?
Okay. Do you want me to go down through all of it, or you want me to just like name one and we'll just like kind of trade back and forth? Say a one and move on.
You know what? Yeah, no. Go down my list, and if one piques our interest, we'll
all
chime
right.
in.
So I finally finished up Harrow County. Speaking of Tyler Crook, that's of course written by Colin Bunn and illustrated by Tyler Crook. Very good. Spoilers, everybody. It's awesome. If you have been waiting for Harrow County for some reason, let me guide you into the land of horror and weird boys without their skin. Very cool stuff. It's awesome. And Harrow County is a true achievement by both creators. I finally read through a little bit of Azrael. I've always been interested in the character over at the DC universe. Fallen Angel was the Dennis O'Neil and Joe Quesada run. It is so 90s, everybody. It is just think of
something old.
Think of the 90s. Think of 90s Batman, and that is Azrael Fallen Angel. It's a lot of nonsense. It's a lot of brooding. It's a lot of sadness, but it's kind of badass as well. And of course, nostalgic for a lot of us millennials who grew up with that being kind of our Batman. And of course, Dennis O'Neil, RIP to one of the greats, truly, with Dennis O'Neil. I shouldn't say finally. I actually had the opportunity to read the first issue of Helen of Windhorn by, bingo card, Social, Tom King and Baquel Evely. It actually doesn't come out.
Sip, sip, sip.
That's number 6 for everybody keeping track at home. But doesn't come out till March. I think March 17th through Dark Horse Comics. It is amazing. If you like
shock,
yeah. If you love Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, you're gonna love this because it is a lot of the same thing. A lot of inner narration, a lot of beautiful art by Evely. Same amount of dead parents. If you've read Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, both. There's if you don't like parents, you're gonna love this book. And a really cool...
or just DC in general.
Yeah, exactly. And it's great. I think this is going to be a lot of people's best of 2024 list going into... We're already looking towards the end of the year. We're only in February.
Oh,
but
mark
like
it
one of
now.
the best.
Mark this audio now.
So everyone mark this. Helen of Windhorn is going to be one of the best comics of the year. I'm calling it right now. Greg...
I can't wait to make a TikTok reel out of
Yeah,
this.
that's right. And Greg, I'd love to kind of piggyback, if you want to help me out with this one, Avengers Twilight,
Sure.
because I've heard you talk about this book quite often, especially over at First Issue Club. Chip Zdarsky, Daniel Acuna, is that how you say his last name? Daniel Acuna?
That's how I say it.
It is today.
I'm going to shut up for a minute because I want you to talk about Avengers Twilight because I love this book and I think it's getting the correct amount of love and yet not enough love at the same time.
Yeah. So Adventures Twilight, we have Chip Zdarsky telling us I wouldn't call it a what if story or like a alternate timeline, but it is like a future that we haven't experienced yet. It's the Avengers aged up. There has been a traumatic event that has happened across the world involving Ultron, and a lot of people died, and because of that, like superheroes were kind of put on the back burner. They were just like, you know what, we don't need you anymore because you caused more damage than you do good. So Captain America actually gave up his super serum. They extracted it from him, so now he's aged appropriately to an old man who still looks ripped as all hell. I don't know how that happens. You have the interesting thing I loved about this book was so we have Power Man, we have Nick Cage, and his bulletproof skin is kind of acting like a coffin. After years and years of having it, it's become more and more rigid, kind of like stone or like some kind of hardening substance. So he's actually kind of lost a lot of motor functions because of that development. And so he's kickstarting his version of the Defenders with a younger group of people to kind of like watch the streets and be almost vigilantes at this point and make sure that like the fascist behind the scenes person isn't winning. We don't know who that person
I have a
is
guess.
at this point.
I have a wild guess, everybody. I'll tell you what, without saying it, everyone think in your head right now who that might be. Yeah. Keep going.
Who's the biggest fascist in,
biggest
Marvel comics?
Self-obsessed, jerk, billionaire.
Yeah.
Dare I say more?
Yeah.
Fucking Squirrel Girl. God damn it.
Squirrel Girl. Damn it. MODOK.
And then, and so it's basically the older Avengers trying to get back to their former glory. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong there, but it's just like they see things that other people aren't seeing as far as like manipulation in the media and like being fed false information through social avenues and news and stuff. And so on our show, I kind of related it to like boomer bait or like the TV channels on TNT. It's very much just like the older generation knows best, and they're going to try to help out the younger generations. It's like Expendables 4 or something, Marvel edition. So it's exciting to see where it goes because it's familiar characters set in unfamiliar scenarios, which I think Marvel typically thrives in. When Marvel separates itself from its rigid timeline and like, Spider-Man has to do this and Iron Man has to say this, their stories really open up. I mean, the Marvel What If series, Volume 1 and 2, and I think Volume 3, tells some of the greatest Marvel stories ever, and it's because the writers get free reign to do whatever. Like, that's kind of where we got Jane Foster as Thor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All I will say, Greg, is that your comments about this issue on that First Issue Club episode had me rolling. because it's exactly what I was thinking about when you said it's like boomer
Boomer bait.
like boomer fodder. Yes, but I am curious. It's done. I don't know. It's done in an interesting way. I picked up issue 2. I haven't read it yet, but I think art wise, Daniel Cunha is like in top form. He is killing it. And if there's one thing that Chip Zdarsky has done throughout his years, is definitely win me over. So I'm in it because I know that it's not going to be like what I think it'll be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's exactly right. That's why I'm kind of still along for the ride, because like I know Chip Zdarsky. I've seen Chip still tell amazing stories, and so I know there's going to be a bait and switch here. I know there's going to be a flip of the
sensibilities
coin.
too, right? You're like, I know this isn't what I think it is, but it's got a little tinge of that, and I think he's going to walk that tightrope.
This isn't like Avengers Fair and Balanced Fox News, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to try to sell me silver in between the middle of this book.
Some pharmaceuticals or something. But
yeah, exactly.
I think this book can, in its lamest terms, be described as like Marvel's Kingdom Come in a way. Like with less Alex Ross, and it's like what if Captain America was? It's like Captain America is the Superman in the story, but Captain America is really angry and Superman's really happy in that book. And I'm guessing, and again, I don't know this, but Tony Stark is going to be the Batman character in this book, and it's going to be a difference of ideals, all the things as we've seen before. And hey, I'm down. Like, I love this. I love that kind of thing, and it's been told, like you said, very well so far. I think there's a really interesting kind of quote that goes along with this, is that history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. That's a Mark Twain quote. And I think that's kind of what
bars
say it louder, Flames.
Yeah, seriously.
Flames in the chat. But it's kind of what I think Chip Zdarsky is headed towards. Like, that's the moral of the story, is that these characters, these heroes, see the writing on the wall, and yet somehow they're the only ones that can. Like, they've been here long enough to know what's going on behind the scenes, and that's what's forcing them back to the front. It's not their superheroisms necessarily; it's the fact that they can see what's about to happen within the confines of the government and whatnot.
Yeah, I think this book was a lot of fun, but it was also very scary and unnerving, because it mirrors our actual life too
it's very
closely.
Topical.
Yeah.
And more specifically, there's a part where like there's a new documentary coming out in this book, and it's reframing the history of the Red Skull as a good guy, because like the Red Skull famously wanted to take out Hitler, and they're just like, why would we hate this man who wants to take out Hitler? And Captain America in this scene is just screaming at the television because he wanted to be a better Hitler, and it's just like that is so indicative of like the world. Like, anything, past and future, can be reworded and reframed to fit specific ideals in this country and the world at large. That to see it in my comic book, I'm just like, oh fuck! Like,
that's a good point. Yeah,
damn it.
And I think that's why I say that thing about like it being like boomer fodder. Yeah, I say it in jest, but this book almost hits like too close to home. Like it's mirroring a lot of things that we're seeing. Like these, debates and divisions among friends and family. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like too close to home, and you're like, what's he doing with this? But I guess I need to read the second issue now. Like, you guys just convinced me. That's probably what I'm gonna read tonight. Chris, what else have you been checking out?
I'm currently catching up on Ram V's Detective Comics, which is issues 1062 to 1075. If you like Ram V, if you enjoy his very like Arthurian meets Lovecraftian type of writing style, you're gonna love this. It's a lot of like Batman is sad and he has a demon after him. Like, that's this run essentially. Like, it's a lot of that, and it's a lot of text, and it's a lot of like gothic horror. Very much my bag. If you like Ram V's, it's not like Rare Flavors. It's not like the many deaths of Lila Starr. Those are very much like his other headspace. This is more like his Justice League Dark, or a lot of his other horror books. He has a book coming out from Dark Horse called Dawn Runners, which I think is very much going to be kind of in this same light. Very good. It's kind of hard. Like, he throws a lot of words at you guys, and if you're a dummy like me, it's a lot of mispronunciations in this old noggin. So if you hopefully have
your dictionary ready,
have your thesaurus next to you. But if you do, it's going to be great. And then finally, I just started. This is much more smooth brain, like right up my alley. Rom the Marvel Years. I very much love this. Like, hey, we have this property. Let's make a comic book about it. 1980s aesthetic. And a lot of, what were you gonna say, Butter? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Is this like the facsimile issue they put out, or is this the omnibus they
This is
recently
the
put out?
omnibus.
Oh, this is the omnibus.
This is
okay,
so
cool.
it was, I think, May of 2023. Marvel bought the rights back to Rom, which had people losing their fucking minds, rightfully so, because Rom for a long time was left in obscurity because he was owned by a parent company or a subsidiary of Hasbro, and when Marvel stopped making the comics from Rom, because they had the rights to Rom and Transformers and all of that back history was the Space Knights was left in obscurity. Who owned it, Hasbro or Marvel? And neither one really wanted to pay the other to continue to write Rom. So Rom, for like almost 30 years, was just kind of left, like the history of him at least, was left in obscurity. Hasbro and I think IDW for a little bit was making comics for Rom, but then IDW sold the rights to Marvel. Marvel now owns the rights. Therefore, all of that old stuff that was very expensive because you could only get it in like single issues and very old trades, I think. Now it's been collected into an omnibus, and it's brain candy. That's all it is. It's awesome. I love it so much.
Dude, I grew up with Rom. My dad had so many of those issues, and I always thought it was such a weird addition to his like very Marvel heavy X-Men and Fantastic Four. But as a kid, like it was like the coolest shit ever, right? And I literally just texted Ben, local comic shop, hey, do you guys have a copy of this book? Like, I cannot wait to buy this fucking omnibus.
In this book, you've got Galactus going after Galador, which is the home planet of Rom, and Jack of Hearts shows up. So if that doesn't sell you immediately, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry.
That's dope. Hell yeah. Chris, that is a stellar lineup. Greg, what have you been reading?
So in our opening 2024 episode for our show, we did like our New Year's resolutions, and mine was to invest more into hardcovers and collected editions because my single issues have gotten out of hand and I'm drowning in them. So I needed to condense. I needed to take note of what I had, and so I've 2024 is my year where I'm investing into hardbacks and collected editions so I can actually read these amazing series that I have collected in single issues and have stacked up to the ceiling, and finally give them the due that they're due. So I have this week gone back and reread Pride of Baghdad by Brian K. Vaughan and Nico Hinrichsen.
Okay.
Which, if you haven't read it,
Angry Lions.
Get fucking ready. It's a cool story, but it is a real ball buster.
In the first 10 pages.
Really, dude, it's rough. And like, it's based on a true story. Quotes. There aren't really talking lions, but there is a story. It's a story about these lions who escaped from the zoo in Baghdad during the conflict there in, I forget the year, the 2000s, I believe. And then they were later shot down by American forces for, whatever reason. But it's kind of their fictional story of escaping that zoo and trying to find freedom, or just trying to get out and find their home. And it's poignant, it's sad, it is classic Brian K. Vaughan. And it makes you, at the end, just feel so sad for these fictional lions, and makes you want to tear down the war machine as it is. So I mean, it succeeds in telling its story in a very flowery way. I'll say that. It's very good though.
Okay.
I also reread Gideon Falls by Jeff Lemire and Sorrento. If you have not read Gideon Falls yet, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I'm ready to say it's Jeff Lemire's masterpiece, but it is pretty goddamn close.
Definitely top 3, I think.
I know. Well, to the man that never stops writing. I mean, who knows what he's going to come up with next? But Gideon Falls should be on everyone's required reading list at one point in your life. It is a cryptic and suspenseful tale that involves the devil and other mystical things, and a man that collects garbage.
Damn,
you can't go wrong.
I'll go ahead and put myself on Front Street. I have never read this, and both of your shining recommendation. I'm adding this to my omnibus cart right now.
One of the best character designs too, with the villain of that book, like truly haunting. And this is a book that you can put in someone's hands that either has never read a comic before or loves comics but loves horror and has never read a horror comic, this is a true, like, this will make you fall in love with the medium after reading it.
Say less. Say less. All right. I'm going to check this out for sure. All right.
This will become a show in no less than 10 years. Why it hasn't become one already, I don't know.
Fair.
As always, I have labeled myself the man who reads the most first issues in the business. It is my job. So some notable first issues that have come out so far is Ultimate Spider-Man from Hickman, Avengers Twilight, which we talked about earlier, and then Zorro, the new Zorro book by Sean Gordon Murphy. And you're probably thinking, well, that's a weird one to put on there. You're right. It is. However, they're taking a new and interesting spin on Zorro. This isn't the Zorro that your grandfather grew up with. It's actually a man who has like idolized Zorro for his entire life. And it's set rather in modern times. So you have Zorro, or the man who's playing Zorro, on a horse, and then his sister in like this like badass Mad Max Cutlass Supreme, just chopping people up.
Sean Gordon Murphy loves drawing those cars, man.
Man, does he not?
Loves a good car comic, and why wouldn't you?
Wasn't that the name of one of his art books? Was like Overdrive, or maybe that was like a series, right? Overdrive?
Maybe it might have been a series.
Something like that. Okay.
Yeah. But it's great. So I love the juxtaposition of the swashbuckling Zorro with the classic car, gun, Mexican drug cartel, and like how those two are going to mesh. I think people are going to be really surprised on how well they work together. I mean, it's still a story about revenge and vengeance and sticking up for the little guy and making sure that, you know, people can live their lives without fear of being killed. And so that is always a timeless story, no matter what era it is in. But when you throw a classic character like Zorro, who's usually depicted in, you know, like a time out of time that we've never experienced in our lives, into a new modern era, it adds in a little something to it.
There's a reason why.
It's like when like when Reese's Pieces put like pretzels or potato chips in their cups all of a sudden. Like, I wasn't expecting that, but I was like, damn, that is good.
I mean, there's a reason why Zorro is known as like the ultimate vigilante, and it's the reason why a lot of people have attributed the creation of Batman to Zorro. Like, Zorro is the reason why we have Batman today.
Right. Can I say, just kind of interesting timing that you brought up, or we're talking about Zorro, because today I was looking through like my emails or something. I was trying to see all of my digital comic receipts, because I've been buying comics on Omnibus like it's nothing. Like, it's kind of dangerous how easy they make it. I think I've said that before. So I was like, oh, what books have I bought? So I was looking through all my receipts, and I noticed that I had gotten an email because I backed the Zorro hardcover book on Kickstarter, on Sean Murphy's Kickstarter for Zorro. And I think whatever tier I backed let me get the first issue digitally, even though I've already bought it physical. I just haven't gotten around to reading it. And I realized that I guess Massive teamed up with Omnibus to distribute and execute that tier. So I got a free digital version. I guess not free because I paid for the tier or the Kickstarter, but I got the Zorro issue on Omnibus app. So it's kind of like, oh, cool. I was going to read it anyways. So I'll check that out today, Greg. Long story short, I'm going to check that out today too as well.
It's very fun.
Okay. Potter, you're making me feel bad because sponsored by the Oblivion Bar is Omnibus, and I didn't say any of that. So thank you for filling in the gaps. I'm actually wearing an Omnibus shirt right now.
Yeah, big shout out to Travis, man. Big shout out to Travis and Kenny. All right, and then Greg, I see you got one more comic.
Yes,
on your
talk
list,
about
which
this one.
I read last night, and I've got some comments, so maybe we can make this review quick.
This is a sneak preview of our episode coming out tomorrow, February 2nd. This is Moon Man #1 by Scott Miscuddy, a.k.a. Kid Cudi, and Kyle Higgins and Marco Licati. It's a sci-fi story about a man who goes on a failed moon mission. Something weird happens. They're lost for a mysterious 7 minutes, and no one knows what happens. He comes back and tries to rebuild his relationship with his family, specifically his brother. Weird shit happens. And then we're left on a pretty kick-ass cliffhanger. And I will be the first to admit, I was not excited when I saw that a Kid Cudi book was coming out. I was like, we've seen this before with people, quote unquote, outside of the comic book industry trying to write a comic book. And I was like, well, here we go again. I'm looking at you, Ray Shremmerd.
You could have also said like The Weeknd. You could have also said
hey,
oh girl.
Ray Shremmerd did Shadow Man dirty.
Yeah,
sorry.
That's funny.
This book was phenomenal. It was fun. It was captivating. I liked the dialogue between the brothers. Marco's artwork in this is beyond wild. I mean, and this is like maybe the third or fourth book that this creator has done. And it's bombastic. He's breaking gutter panels left and right, like you don't know where to look. It's very trippy. It's very Kid Cudi, if that makes sense.
Mr. Solo Dolo.
It is the most Kid Cudi comic that you would expect. Like character is lost on the moon. It takes place in Cleveland, and
is
the
Pursuit of Happiness mentioned at all in the comic at all? Like.
Not yet, but it's coming. It's coming. I will, and Greg, I'm glad you highlighted the art, because I was literally telling Drew this. And by the way, me and Drew, like, very early in our friendship, I played him Kid Cudi day and night, and that's how he even got into rap music. I think prior to that, he wasn't really even about it, but I played him day and night, and I'll never forget like the excitement in his mind.
I've regretted it since.
Yeah, yeah. And you saw Kid Cudi, like, and he's also an artist that I grew up with. Like, I've watched him, break into the industry. I've followed him since the mixtapes, the albums. I mean, hell, he was like my second concert I ever went to, and it was a magical moment. So, like, seeing this comic, I too was a little bit like, is this gonna be good? But then I saw that Kyle Higgins was attached, and that piqued my interest. And then I learned that this is also part of like the Massiverse that he's kind of doing, or is kind of semi-related. So, I mean, dude, I just picked it up off the strength, right? I was like, fuck it. I can at least pick up the first issue. And the art in this blew my mind. It reminds me of, like, there's nothing else I can compare it to other than, like, early Static Shock issues. Like, Milestone, Dennis Cohen. Like, just how, to your point, like, how he's playing around with, like, the gutters or the lack of gutters, and like the colors and the collages, the design. Sometimes there's panels in that comic where I don't know what's going on, but I know it's cool. I'm like, this is pretty. Yeah. This is some Kid Cudi shit.
That was a great comp of like, it definitely got Milestone vibes of just like,
for sure,
early Static Shock stuff.
Yeah, it's like gritty, and I think there's also something to be said about in this first issue, like there's a riot kind of or protest going on that turns bad, and like he's got powers he can't control. All I'm saying is I think I might be along for the ride. The first issue was interesting enough. I don't think it was like, I don't think it's going to like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. But it's interesting enough that you're like, okay, I'll give it another 2 issues. Really quick tangent. I did not know that fucking Ray Shremmerd did a Shadow Man Valiant comic. I'm looking at the cover and I'm like, what the fuck were they doing with Shadow Man?
It is wild.
I would go back really quickly to Moon Man. I just picture like, Kid Cudi in one corner of the room with a blunt in one hand and an astronaut helmet on, and just Kyle Higgins just furiously typing at the computer. Just like Kid Cudi's just like throwing ideas at the wall, and Kyle Higgins like, oh, okay, like he's like writing the script.
Look, as soon as you open this comic book, all you hear is this. Yeah.
Day and night. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, the only thing missing is like the Kid Cudi ad libs in the comic. But I did read it in his voice. Like there are certain words, like the slang, and him saying like, "Yo, what's up?" You know what I'm saying? Like it is written. I can hear it in his voice, and I think that's a good thing.
I think you're supposed to, because when they make this into a movie, he was like, "You can cast me. You can go ahead and cast me for the older brother." You know
what, Drew? I was telling Drew about this, and I was telling Drew about this because this book sold out. Like I had put it on my pull list, thankfully, but when we went to the shop yesterday, it was sold out, and I managed to find one other issue somewhere else. And Drew was like, all right, be honest with me. Is the main character, like, is he sort of like Kid Cudi? I'm like, this dude is exactly Kid Cudi. They might as well have called him Scott Miss Cudi,
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I think I read somewhere that the Moon Man is loosely based off, like, the concepts in most of Kid Cudi's albums.
He's the Moon Man. I mean, his first. Don't even get me started. I can go down I can do a whole episode about Kid Cudi's discography. Everything about it is Kid Cudi. So if you're a Kid Cudi fan, go find this first issue and go read it.
Yeah.
All right, Greg, that was a good lineup, man, and thank you for putting the Shadow Man Ray Shrimp comic on my fucking radar. All right,
yeah, you won't be thanking me tomorrow.
All right, I'm gonna go through my list very quickly because it's been a very busy. It's been a busy January in terms of like me just reading and enjoying comics and catching up on stuff. So I have caught up with Ultimate Universe, the Hickman 4-issue series that leads right into Ultimate Spider-Man. I don't know why I was not reading it as it was coming out monthly, but I'm glad I waited until it was done because with all Hickman stories, sometimes it just pays off to like wait until all the issues come out. So Ultimate Universe was really good, and this first issue of Ultimate Spider-Man, I mean, you know, there's a reason why that book has shot up in value, and I think it's more so interesting that it's not so much because of the covers or, you know, the artists on the covers. It's just because it's a good Spider-Man book, and I think that's a big reason why it's driving up the prices, is that it's finally a Spider-Man book that fans are excited about and they're not so split on. So, the Ultimate stuff is great. I finally got to reading Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. I know I was late to it, but it might be one of my favorite comic books ever. It is so deceivingly cute. Right, like you're like, oh, it's a town of anthropomorphic, animals like living in society together, and then you realize there's a serial killer, and you're like, why have I never? It's an idea that you're like, why have I never seen this done before? It is such a unique, fresh idea, and if you're a fan of horror comics, as well as like watercolor art, like the juxtaposition fucks me up every single time. It's such a beautiful book, but it's a horrifying.
If everyone listening right now, if you haven't read this, just think Richard Scarry books from the early 90s plus Dexter. Anthropomorphic bear.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, Dexter meets Bernstein Bears, meets, Arthur, all that stuff. Yeah. So, that might be one of my favorite comic series I've read this past month in 2024 so far. Which I feel like, even though we haven't been doing, something new, something blue, we've kind of stuck to it. So, that was something kind of newish. I've read Avengers Twilight. I'm on board for it. I read the Ghost Machine special. I'll go ahead and be honest with you. I think Greg, what you said in your episode of
are we getting into this now?
Are we getting podcast. Into this? No.
Boy.
We've got to go through.
I don't want to blacklist all you guys.
Yeah. All I'm going to say is I think for this Ghost Machine universe, which I think the initiative is great. I think like the whole concept of the universe is awesome. I don't think I'm going to be down following for every single title. I think I'm going to stick to like Geiger, Red Coat, and probably Junkyard Joe, but especially Geiger. I think they've really hit something special with Geiger. That might be for sure like the best series among that whole How am
I the only one that's down with Ghost Machine? Am I the only one holding the neon yellow and black flag over here?
No. I'm here for Ghost Machine and what they're doing. I just don't think I'm going to buy every single title. That was a lot. That
timeline was intense.
It was a lot.
From what I understand, it's going to be a couple years out before we see a lot of this. Like Hyde Street's not coming out until later this year, if not 2025. So
I guess maybe that's what threw me off was I thought, I guess in my head I've been thinking like, wow, all of this is coming out monthly at the same time. But I think I'm going to focus my efforts on Geiger because that is brilliant, and Red Coat is kind of interesting. And Brian Hitch's artwork in that preview, those previews look pretty good. I'm going to also add one more thing. I have been trying to, one of my New Year's goals, Greg, since you brought it up, is trying to just cut back on certain subscription services and streaming apps that, truthfully, I'm just not using. Like I cut Disney Plus about a month or two ago, and I haven't missed it. I haven't even thought about it. That's a couple of, that's $100 or so saved. So I've also eliminated the DC app because I've been utilizing my Hoopla app, right? Like I'm sure you guys are aware, like if you got a library card, you have access to Hoopla, and I think the other sister app is Libby. So I've been really trying to hone in on like, okay, I don't necessarily need to own these books or these stories. I wouldn't mind just like renting and reading it. So I've been really heavy on checking out books in the Hoopla app. And if your library selection is anything like mine, there's a lot of great comic books, trades that are available in the Hoopla app. And one that I particularly read, or actually two that I've read that I've thoroughly enjoyed, is Six Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton, which is written by Kyle Starks, and I cannot recall the name of the artist right
Chris
now.
Schweischer.
But thank you. That was one of the funnest comic books I have ever read.
Yeah.
That shit was awesome.
I mean, again, you had me at Kyle Starks. I mean, that's another.
Yeah,
like
for sure,
he's
for
up
real.
there with like Chip Zdarsky, and
Yes.
whatever they
Yes.
do, I'm reading.
Man, you took the words out of my mouth. I've been telling Drew this the whole month because I also got him reading it, and he's like, "Yo, there's something to this." Kyle Starks is now on my list of like, if he's doing something, I'm probably at least going to check out the first issue.
Yeah.
That was such a fun book, and the overall theme and the premise for anyone that isn't aware, the 30,000 foot view or elevator pitch is you've got think of a Chuck Norris Hollywood star and all of the different shows that he's probably been in, and every single show he's got a sidekick. Well, there's a murder mystery where this Chuck Norris character, Trigger Keaton in this case, ends up getting killed, and his sidekicks come together to figure out who murdered him. But they're also like healing from the trauma of being on set with them, him just being a shitty actor and also just a terrible person. So they're also like bonding together. But the best part is that there is, it plays into the whole Hollywood trope because there's a team of like a faction of stuntmen that they go to war with, which is just absolutely hilarious. In the trade in particular, that really sold me is after you read the 6 issues, there's all that bonus material. Oh my God. Have you guys seen the bonus material in the trade?
Yeah, it's like
there's like a fake IMDb
Skybound
page,
X.
a fake Reddit page. Yeah, dude, it was such a fun read, man. The art is like also like kind of cartoony, fun. The only thing I will say, I think this probably would have translated better as an animated series. The way the joke telling is done, I think you have to hear. It'd be really cool to hear some of the jokes being said because there's background characters that say things that are hilarious. And I think sometimes the timing in comic books, I think an animated show would really like deliver some of that. But Trigger Keaton has been great, and I have been reading World's Finest by Mark Waid and Dan Mora, which, by the way, I did not know that they're on like issue 23 right now. I guess I have been asleep at the wheel for the past 2 years, but holy shit.
Dan Mora might be finest.
Dan Mora might be one of the best. No, it's definitely safe to say he is like one of the best comic book artists.
He's the new house
now.
style. Like it's literally Dan Mora.
Insane.
Yeah. And
insane. This book
it's wild. I was gonna say it's wild because like I also have been sleeping at the wheel because I have not read any of this yet, and yet how with Mark Waid and everyone talking about how good this is.
I said the same
Dan
thing.
Mora, of course. Yeah, it's wild that I haven't got into it, but it's nice to hear that you say that you love it as well.
Yeah. It's on my radar now because I'm seeing that they're doing some sort of Kingdom Come story arc or storyline, and everyone, at least like the Reddit pages I follow and the circles on Twitter have spoken pretty highly about it. And I was just gonna jump in there, but I was like, fuck it. Hoopla has got both volumes for free. Why not read it? I killed Volume 1 last night. I'm on Volume 2. It's essentially a Silver Age Batman Superman with all the wild antics, just done in a modern time with really badass art, like amazing art, to where you kind of give some of this stuff a little leeway. Where you're like, if a lesser artist was drawing this would be kind of silly. But it's a lot of fun if you're looking for something a little lighthearted, but also drawn really well with like it feels like Dan Mora is just getting to draw all the DC characters. It's phenomenal. So recommend checking that out on Hoopla if you got that.
I have a hunch that like Dan Mora might be a robot because there's no way a human can consistently put out that type of work on more than one book. He's on multiple books, multiple covers.
He puts out more covers. The only person that puts out more covers than him is Peach Momoko. Like it's like him and Dan Mora and Peach are leading the pack.
It's like they're competing.
Exactly. It is pretty interesting that he is doing all. I think he's only skipped like one issue of this series of the 23 issues so far, but he's doing interiors. He's doing the covers. It is a great looking book.
Yeah, I think at one time he was doing a Klaus one shot, finishing up Once and Future, and working on World's Finest all at one time. And it's just like, and doing covers, and it's just like, that's not fair. Like, share some of that talent with some of us fools here in the mud that can't do anything but talking to a microphone.
Wasn't he also doing or is doing Shazam with Mark Waid too?
I don't know.
He did some covers,
Yeah.
I know for
All
sure.
right, maybe he just
Yeah.
covers them. Okay. Well, regardless, this shit is phenomenal. Like, it's a good time to probably catch up because whatever they got going on is, yeah, it's. I've heard it's good. So that's what I've been reading. I would like to go ahead and transition into, we'll make this our last segment of this show, and that is talking about new comic books that our listeners should be aware of. We've already kind of spoken a lot about the books that we're reading, some of them being brand new. But we're looking into the future, and that is where our good guy, Ben Kingsbury, comes into play. I asked him this morning to send in his 3 FOC picks of the week. So these are brand new comic books coming out in about a month that if you are interested in checking out, you're going to go to your local comic shop, ask them to order it for you or put it on your pull list. If you're familiar with the show, you know Ben's got a very eclectic taste. He sometimes will make certain themes when it comes to his picks, and I don't know if he's got a theme this week, but it's a stellar lineup of his books. So these are his top 3 new comic books that you, as a listener, as a comic book fan, should probably check out. So I'm going to go ahead and play his first voicemail right here, and I'm going to have to edit these in post. So if you're watching the video version, you're getting it straight from the phone. All right, here we go. All right.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, Shortbox Nation. I'm Ben K, representing Gotham City Limit, Jacksonville, Florida. And I've got 3 comics you should add to your pull list right now. Let's jump off with a big major title from Marvel Comics, Symbiote Spider-Man 2099, number 1. Peter David is penning this dystopian future piece, so that's worth giving it a shot right there. But let's dive deeper. Marvel's been hinting at a major 2099 event happening this summer, and Miguel O'Hara getting his own symbiote separate from Venom 2099 would seem to be playing a major role. Plus, for those collectors out there, Marvel loves to throw first appearances in Spidey 2099 comics. Add this one today.
All right, there goes your first pick of the week. That was Symbiote Spider-Man 2099. That comes out March 13th. All right, let's go into his second pick of the week. And this one comes from the Distinguished Competition. All right, this one is a DC title for all you DC heads out there. Let's hear from Ben.
Second on this week's list, DC Comics presents Suicide Squad Dream Team, number 1 of a 4-part series. From all accounts, Amanda Waller is making her move to seize the ultimate power in the DCU. The future. Think Precog Minority Report. Plus, Suicide Squad's always best known for its cast of characters, so I'll introduce to you who's been announced. Join this ride with Harley Quinn, Bizarro, Clock King, Black Alice, and Deadeye. This 4-part series will be chaos. Literally.
All right, that was the second pick right there. That was Suicide Squad Dream Team number 1. That comes out March 12th. And last but not least, I'll go ahead and admit, I get to hear these a little, I get to hear these early. I'm really excited for this next pick. Let's hear from Ben. I'll let Ben tell you, and then I'll follow up.
And last but not least, let's hear one from the new publisher Distillery, White Boat number 1 of a 3-part series. Scott Snyder's Twisted Mind makes his debut for Distillery, and the one question White Boat promises to answer is this: are you being shipped to paradise or sinking you to hell on Earth? For fans of Hereditary, The Host, Jurassic Park, The Island of Dr. Moreau, there have been secret cults that have existed for millennia. However, in this tale, they're working on something called The Human Project. Sounds like an X-Files episode to me, so I'm in. Plus, if you love your comic shop, letting us know that you want this oversized magazine comic really helps us in ordering. So get this one added to your pull list now. Well, another week is come and gone, and I'm still Ben K, representing Gotham City Limit, Jacksonville, Florida. Remember, with great power comes great responsibility, and always take it to the limit.
No one is the king of the pregnant pause like Ben Kingsbury. All right,
I could listen to Ben K read the previews magazine. That boy has a voice as smooth as
the back of a
parquet.
shampoo bottle.
Yeah, that was
good,
wonderful.
It is good. All right. Once again, that last one was
White
the
Boat.
white. What is it? The
White Boat.
Oh, sorry, White Boat. That one comes out March 27th. Just a quick recap of his top three. You got Symbiote Spider-Man 2099 number 1. You got Suicide Squad Dream Team number 1, and White Boat number 1. All of those will be linked in the show notes if you want to take a look at any of the previews, the covers, the creative teams. That will be in the show notes. So click or check that out if you are interested in previews. And just a reminder, even if you don't live in Jax, you can still take it to the limit by visiting GothamCityLimit.com, where you can find exclusive comics and variant covers you won't find anywhere else. I also believe if you want to be a part of the Gotham City Limit family, I believe they can also set you up with a pull list no matter where you're at. I know they do shipping. They've got certain customers in different states. So if you're interested in being a part of the Gotham City Limit family, hit them up, GothamCityLimit.com. All right, Greg, Chris, I'm going to look to you guys and ask, of those three picks, which one piques your interest the most? Which one would you put on?
I just want to point out really quick before we make our picks that the Symbiote Spider-Man 2099 has both a 1 in 100 Greg Land variant and a Salvador LaRocca cover. So it's definitely not going to be Symbiote Spider-Man 2099. Throw this series in the garbage off issue 1. I'll kind of piggyback off you, Botter. White Boat number 1, I mean, you have me at Scott Snyder. I'm in. Distillery doing a lot of cool work with a lot of their different titles. I'm specifically very excited for the James Tynion and Christian Ward Spectrograph coming out in, I want to say March, but very excited for this White Boat as well. Anything Distillery does is looking to be pretty quality. So that'll be my pick.
Yeah, I'm also going to choose White Boat number 1 from Distillery. The description sounds a little bit like White Lotus Goes to Hell, and I love the idea of that and what Distillery is doing, and the prestige format that they got for us fans is cool. And Ben was right. Let your LCS know ahead of time on ordering these things, because the prestige books are a lot harder to order because they are a weird size, and they're a little more pricey. So it helps them ahead of time to kind of get their ducks in a row. So I know I'll be calling my LCS tomorrow to make sure that they give me a copy of White Boat.
I piggyback off of all of that. I also pick White Boat. I said that in the beginning, but I'm a sucker for. I've really started to grow to like the prestige format. There's something about the artwork being larger. Just feeling like even though it comes with a little bit of a price tag, it's usually like an $8.99 book. I don't know.
You get more pages though. 48. Usually it's like 48 to 52 pages in these prestige books. So
that is true.
Easy.
And Scott Snyder and Francesco Francavilla have been, with them two together.
And with these books being the way they are, easy to get 9.9s. I've heard 9.8s are pretty much positive. 9.9. If you're going to get a 9.9 in a comic book without pressing it, try out those prestige books, everybody.
Words of wisdom. There we go. All right. Well, gents, I think that kind of wraps us up for this episode. Our C2E2 panel tryout material. Can't wait to send.
We're better in person.
But also,
yeah, and more handsome.
But also, I wouldn't mind making this maybe a more regular thing. A meeting of the Comic Gents. That is the name of our text thread. I guess a little bit peeking behind the curtain for our listeners. Comic Gents is the name of our particular text thread, and that's kind of where I got the idea of having you guys on today. So I appreciate you guys jumping on with me, bearing with the technical difficulties, catching up, talking comics. I'm glad that we're all in a good spot when it comes to our reading and just enjoying the industry as a whole. Do you guys have any closing remarks, any shameless plugs? Obviously, I'm going to have links to both of your shows, your socials in the episode description, but do you want to say anything before we sign off? Chris?
I love every time we can put this Voltron of a comic book podcasting beast together, because I always love chatting with you guys. I talk to you guys in our Comic Gents thread more than I talk to my mom. So and if I could just do that on a recording and then put it out into the world, hey, more power to us. But Yeah, no, very much had a great time doing this. Hopefully we get to do that panel. Can't wait to hang out with you both in person. Botter, we had a great time at New York Comic Con last year, and Greg, I know you and your tall ass will have just as much time, just as much of a good time as we had. So hopefully we can make it happen. And shameless plug, Oblivion Bar podcast.com. Subscribe wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. We'll be releasing a brand new segment next week. I think it's the week that this is coming out, actually, called Midnight Rewind, where we go back and look at our favorite anime classics of all time. Our first episode will be covering Princess Mononoke. And Botter, you would appreciate this as a podcast head. My transcript is wild. It's like longer than the Bible. So it's going to be a very intricate and detailed episode. If you love anime and you love Princess Mononoke, Studio Ghibli, it's going to be one for the hardcore fans. So look out for that.
Looking forward to it. Hell yeah, Chris. All right, Greg, what about you, man?
Yeah, like Chris said, thank you again for having me on the Short Box. It's always a pleasure to meet up with you guys of like-minded nerds and comic book fans to talk about the things that I love the most. If you are a part of the 80% of the audience that skipped ahead too far when we were talking football and you just got here, let me give you the episode summation. Tom King is Chris Hacker's emergency contact. We know that for certain right now. To the creators of Omnibus, give Botter a sponsorship. He spends so much money on that app and said your name so many times this episode. The man deserves it. Yeah, let's get that email chain linked up. No, I could do this, every day with you guys. I love comic books so much. I love making sure people know how great comic books are. Shameless plug, firstissueclub.com. We cover the weekly issues of the. I'm all flustered. You guys got me flustered. I'm looking at you smiling. First Issue Club, we cover the first issues of the week. We've been doing it for, almost 6-7 years now, and it's been just a fun ride. I met you two gentlemen through that, and, we got no plans to stop it now. And
there we go.
So come on by, and maybe you'll find something you like, and, maybe you won't. Who knows?
Hell yeah. Greg, I am looking forward to texting you about my thoughts about your episode when it drops tomorrow.
All right.
But with that being said, Shortbox Nation, that is the end of our show. My pre-recorded outro will be playing here shortly, but I just wanted to say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Hopefully you guys enjoyed something just a little more relaxed. I love doing interviews. I love, doing book reviews, but sometimes I don't want to write a Bible-length transcription and outline. Sometimes I just want to catch up with the homies and talk comics. So if you guys enjoy this, and if you did, let me know, all right? Shoot me a message, email, let me know how you enjoyed this episode. And if you're the one person that is still listening, I appreciate you, all right? I love you the most. Be well, take care, and I'll catch you guys next week when I interview Christopher Priest.